السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Inshallah Azza wa Jal, today I wanted to give my story on how I became to be a student here at the Islamic University of Madinah, located in the city of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Before getting into that and how I actually became to be a student, I wanted to give a brief background about myself and where I come from. I accepted Islam when I was 18 years old in my home city, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, United States of America. I was randomly walking downtown one day. An individual, African-American brother, he was Muslim. He came up to me and asked me for directions. After giving him the directions, he then asked me, "Are you Muslim?" I said, "No, I'm not Muslim, and why would you even think that I'm Muslim?" I wasn't offended or anything. I was just surprised. What would make this guy think that some random guy walking around downtown is Muslim? He said, "Because of your beard." And yes, I had a beard even prior to me accepting Islam, not due to any religious reasons, just it's normal. It's normal, especially in the East Coast of the United States, for many people to have beards for no particular reason. At any rate, I responded to him, "No, I'm not Muslim, I just have a beard." He said, he apologized and he went on his way. However, this stuck with me, and I immediately went home and started YouTubing Islam. I immediately started YouTubing Islam. Islam, what is Islam? What is this? What are Muslims? Who do they believe in? What is their God? What is their aqidah? What do they believe? To the end of it. I remember watching videos in my room the same day as this brother, may Allah reward him and bless him wherever he is. The same day that he asked me these questions was the same day I accepted Islam in my room. After watching video after video after video, I ended up accepting Islam in my room by myself. After accepting Islam, I was guided to the local masjid, which happened to be filled with Arab people from all over the Arab world, whether that's Saudi Arabia, whether that's Yemen, whether that's Palestine, whether that's Syria, whether that is different parts of Africa, Morocco, Algeria, and the likes. Even some of the West African countries like Guinea and Nigeria and things like this. However, many of these people, they only spoke the Arabic language, or they spoke more in the Arabic language due to that being their mother tongue. Even the khutbah up until this day in that particular masjid is done in the Arabic language. So I was always from the very beginning hearing and dealing with these Arab people, in hearing their language, being around their culture, just really getting immersed in Islam, first and foremost in Islam, and then second in the culture of the Arab. So I always had a desire to want to kind of learn what they were saying, learn the books that they were reading, understand the khutbah that was being given. So I took it upon myself to learn the Arabic language without a teacher, just on myself. I remember I was working a job at this particular time. Maybe I've graduated high school and I'm working a job actually overnight. And I was working overnight and I had nothing to do the entire night. So I said to myself, I'm going to start to learn Arabic. I'm going to use this time that I have, that I'm actually getting paid for, to actually learn Arabic. So I got a book called Gateway to Arabic, a very famous book, at least where I'm from, in regards to learning the alphabet and learning the harakat, the vowels, small words. I remember getting this book and studying as I was at work, writing index cards, learning the alphabet, memorizing the vowels, little small words. And within a matter of just literally a couple of days, I had memorized the alphabet. Within a matter of maybe 2 weeks, I was literally learning Arabic. No teacher, nothing. Just with the help of the book. Of course, making many mistakes on the way in regards to my pronunciation. But nonetheless, within just a matter of maybe 2 weeks, I was reading, mashallah, tabarakallah, Arabic. And then I began to try to read the Quran and just kept going farther and farther and farther. At this point, now I could read the Arabic language. I then was introduced to some brothers who guided me then to the famous Medina books. And I was excited. I love these books. MashaAllah, this is actually real speaking. I can memorize conversations and words and sentences and phrases. So I began to study that book also, again, while I was at work. Studying this book as I was at work, going home, reading studying with index cards, listening to lectures completely in the Arabic language, not knowing anything that's being said, but just training myself and just taking in this language every second possible. When I was at work studying, when I was not at work, I was studying. This was all I was doing. Then after completing Medina Book 1, I then completed Medina Book 2 the same way, just at work, memorizing vocabulary, index cards with vocabulary words on them, just continuing like this with this method. Then there was a brother who introduced me to the famous Arabi Bayn Yadayk. These books I really fell in love with. They were really helpful in regards to speaking. So again, the story continues. I began studying even that book, to the point that I finished many books in regards to learning the Arabic language before ever going anywhere. Before ever going what? Before ever leaving the country. I could already kind of speak Arabic to a very low level, but nonetheless I could speak. I knew vocabulary words, I could read, I was listening to lectures for hours upon hours. I remember being at work, you know, reading books in Arabic. Not knowing really what was being said, but just practicing reading, increasing in my understanding, and things like this. Then I met some brothers who had just recently came back from Egypt. And at this time I didn't know anything about going overseas, didn't know anything about, you know, that you could go and learn Arabic and study in these universities. I didn't know anything about this. So an individual told me about the Islamic University of Madinah. So I went and I seen the videos on YouTube, and of course I fell in love. I fell in love with the Islamic University of Madinah to the point that it was my life. Nothing else mattered to me. I was continuing studying my Arabic, memorizing the Quran, and my goal was to come here. I submitted my papers, but I did not stop there. I was advised by some brothers, there's a big chance that you won't be accepted, so don't waste your time. So I ended up going overseas. I ended up applying, going overseas to Egypt. Actually, I went to Sudan first. I was only there for a little bit of time, and then I left, and then I went to Egypt, and I stayed in Egypt for about a year straight, and I benefited tremendously. After being there for about a year, of course the list came out for the University of Medina, and I was not on it. So what did I do? I applied again. As I was there in Egypt. Being in Egypt the first time was an amazing benefit. As soon as I got there, I was living in a house with about 7 or 8 brothers from Libya. They didn't know anything of English. They only knew the Arabic language, and they were students of knowledge. They were tulab al-ilm. So they were speaking the Fusha, they were studying, they were memorizing Bukhari. I remember waking up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and they'd be in the living room, no electricity. Electricity's out, they're there with the flashlights, reading Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, praying tahajjud, and I was amazed. These was the first people I really met that were really serious about knowledge, that were really serious about learning, getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, increasing in ibadah. These were the first brothers I met. May Allah reward them. Because I already had a good foundation in regards to finishing Medina Book 1, Medina Book 2, Arabi Bayn Yadayk Book 1, and then also my short stay in Sudan, after being in Egypt, I picked up the language very fast. Within about 4 or 5 months, I was actually fluent. I could speak, I could read, I could understand, I could go to lessons, I could read books. And I praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for making that easy for me. I then left Egypt, and as soon as I came back to America, my local masjid was going on Umrah. They were going on Umrah. So I decided, you know, alhamdulillah, I applied to university twice. I'm fluent in Arabic, haqiqatan at this time. I said I'm going to go on Umrah, and I'm going to apply, I'm going to do the interview here in the university here in Medina. So we come to Medina first actually. On the plane right here, I met a brother who was actually from my city, but lived in a different part of the United States at the time. He's from my city, Philadelphia, but he actually was living in North Carolina at the time. Never met him before, prior to this. So as we're speaking on the plane, I say, hey, did you ever apply to university? He says, yeah, I did. He says, I know a sheikh there in Medina. He's going to help me with the interview. And I said, mashallah. So we're in the hotel. Maybe it's the next day or maybe 2 days later. I leave the hotel room, and I'm about to get in a taxi to go to the university to do the interview. Right before I do that, I contact the brother, the one that I recently just met on the plane, and I said, hey, I'm about to go to the university. Do you want to come with me? He says, why don't you wait for me? Because I'm going with the sheikh, and he's going to take us directly to the mudir, to the individual that's in charge of accepting the students in a tasjil wa qubul, in the building of acceptance, applying an acceptance. So I said, subhanAllah, this is way better than what I'm about to do. I'm about to just do a regular interview. If I go with this guy, he's going to actually connect me with the main guy. So I thought that this was much better. So I waited for the brother. The sheikh came. He picked us up, took us directly to the university. And we didn't even do an interview. We went directly to this man's office. This man, mashallah, was amazing. He's signing papers on the phone. People are coming in, sign this. What do you think? This guy, he's like the boss. The guy says, you know, there's these 2 students that they applied and I want to help them get accepted. The guy tells us, Abshir, glad tidings, you've been accepted. When he said that, I thought that was kind of strange. I'm like, I'm thinking it doesn't really work like that. The guy says, write down your number and then inshallah you'll be accepted. Write down your number, write down your application number, he means, inshallah you'll be accepted. I begin to have a dialogue with this individual and he says to me, what are you originally? I says, no, I'm just white. He says, Taib, you live in America, but what are you originally? The guy actually thought that I was half Arab due to my Arabic language. And I'm not saying this in a way of showing off. I'm saying this in regards to the story. The man was impressed with my Arabic language, mashallah, tabarakallah, to the point that he stopped me. He said, you're a convert? You're somebody that accepted Islam? Mind you, this is all happening in Arabic, no translator. You know, I'm having a dialogue with this guy. He stops what he's doing, gets on the phone, calls in about 6 or 7 people. I don't know if they're teachers or if they're just people that work in the university. And he says, Taib, tell us how you became Muslim. SubhanAllah, I was amazed. I'm sitting there in this guy's office in Islamic University of Madinah, the guy in charge of accepting students. And he wants to know how I became Muslim. And he's so impressed with me because he's thinking that I'm half Arab. And then when I tell him that I'm just white, this guy, he's impressed, mashallah, tabarakallah. So I'm sitting there for about 30 minutes just explaining to him how I became Muslim, why I want to study here, my future goals, how I learned Arabic, going to Egypt and Sudan, and then also, and other than that, mashallah. And he was very impressed. So we leave, we do the Umrah, may Allah accept it from us, I mean. We go back to the United States. I wait a couple months, don't hear anything, so I end up going to Kuwait. I end up getting a job teaching English in Kuwait. I'm in Kuwait for a little bit of time, end up coming back to the United States, and at this point, still nothing. I'm not hearing anything about the Islamic University of Madinah. So I said, you know what, it's time for me to make a change. I'm moving from this city. I felt that Philadelphia was not the best for me in regards to what I want to do with my future. I felt like it was kind of holding me back. So I decided to move to Minnesota. And I moved to Minnesota for a very particular reason. They actually have an Islamic University there. It's called the Islamic University of Minnesota. And actually, it's a funny story how I even came about hearing that. I was going online to check my status one day for the Islamic University of Madinah. So when I typed in on Google, Islamic University of, and then I clicked on M, as I'm about to type in the word Medina, the word Minnesota comes up. So I'm like, what is this? Islamic University of Minnesota? So I click on it, and it takes me to the Facebook page. So I'm looking at it, I'm like, mashallah, they actually have a legit university. You can get a degree in Hadith and Sharia and Quran. I thought this was amazing. So it's their Facebook page, so anyone that likes the page or anyone that goes there, you can go to the Facebook page. So I begin adding hundreds of brothers that say that they study there, hundreds of brothers, sending the same exact message to all of them. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. I'm interested in coming to this university. Could you give me some information? Out of literally the hundreds of brothers that I wrote, 2 brothers responded back. One Somali brother and one Ethiopian brother. May Allah reward them as they were immensely helpful when I ended up moving to Minnesota. I ended up speaking to the one Somali brother. I found the one, yes, I spoke to the Somali brother. He gave me some information. Kind of really didn't know, as he wasn't really a student there. He kind of just lived in the area. But there was another brother there, an Ethiopian brother, Oromo brother, that actually was studying there. He actually had moved from California to Minnesota for this particular university. So I began speaking to him, and I told him, I said, I want to come out there, I want to visit. He says, yeah, it's amazing, the people are great, the state itself, the city, everything is good. Within about 2 or 3 days, I was in Minnesota. I flew out there, I stayed there for about 5 days. This brother, may Allah reward him, actually paid for me to stay at a hotel, paid for my food, took me around. May Allah reward this brother tremendously for the immense help that he gave me. May Allah Azza wa Jalla really reward him tremendously. MashaAllah, yani he went out of his own pocket, picked me up from the airport, paid for my hotel. Yani MashaAllah, tabarakallah, may Allah reward him tremendously. After being there just the first day, I fell in love with Minnesota, with the people, with the cleanliness. Excuse me, with the cleanliness of the state, how the niceness of the people. And then of course there's many Somalis there, There was a big Muslim population there. And then of course the school, I went to the school, I sat in some classes. And even outside of the school, there was classes in the masjid every single day. They were going over Alfiya ibn Malik, Tafsir, Quran, Hadith, outside of the school. I said, I have to move here. Like, it might be wajib on me, Allahu A'lam, I need to move here. So I went back home, sold everything that I had. I sold my car, I moved out of the apartment that I just moved in. I was only living there for maybe 2 months. Sold my brand new car, had a brand new car, 2016 something, sold it, moved to Minnesota. And mashallah, I was there, I was benefiting. And of course, I'm still not hearing anything about the Islamic University of Madinah. So after being there for about a year, I said, you know what, I'm going back to Egypt. Because I can't get accepted to the University of Madinah. And even though, yes, I was benefiting there, I said, I want to go back to Egypt. So I went back to Egypt again. As I was in Egypt, I was there for this time about maybe 4 months. I swear by the Lord of the Kaaba, I was in the masjid, waiting for the iqamah for Salat al-Maghrib. For Salat al-Maghrib, and I believe the date was June 25th. Either June or July, I believe it was June 25th. Or was it July 25th? Anyway, it was either June or July 25th. I'm in the masjid waiting for them to call the iqamah. I'm sitting in the back of the masjid. They start calling the iqamah. Wallahi al-azim. Something came over me to just check my name. Mind you, I had just checked my name a couple of days prior to that, and I wasn't accepted. So there wasn't really a reason for me to have to check my name. But as I'm walking to the front of the masjid, because they're calling the iqamah, I pull out my phone as I'm walking up and I go on the university's website, type in my application number, and it says, congratulations, you have been accepted to study at the Islamic University of Madinah. I begun to shake. I immediately fell into sajda shukr lillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. I immediately went into the sajda, the prostration of thankfulness, lillahi rabbil alameen, for this amazing ni'mah that just was bestowed upon me and the way that it was given to me, being in Egypt, already studying, being in the masjid as they're calling the iqamah to be accepted to the Islamic University of Madinah in this matter. This was something that was amazing. I remember praying that prayer in tears. Haqiqatan, I remember praying that prayer in tears, shaking, just so excited. I then, shortly after, a couple weeks later, got my ticket and I came back to I had to go back to my home state of Pennsylvania, because it's in regards to doing the paperwork, it's much easier to do it in your home state. I then, I went through the paperwork. I sent all my stuff to the travel agency. They have to authenticate your documents, this, that, and the third. After I sent them everything, you have to send the travel agencies your documents. They authenticate it, they approve it, and then they send it back to you. Then you take them to the embassy. At this point, we already had our tickets. We actually already had our tickets for the University of Madinah pre-booked for us. And I was supposed to leave within a matter of 10 days. The travel agency calls me and they said, we sent the package, it should be at your house today. That whole day I wait, nothing comes. Long story short, my papers were actually lost in the mail. My papers were lost in the mail. So a person might say, okay, what's the big deal? Just get it done again. It wasn't like that, because it takes them about a month to actually approve your paperwork. So I was supposed to leave for Medina in about 10 days. I was making dua, oh Allah, what am I gonna do? The papers are not here. FedEx actually, subhanAllah, they actually lost my paperwork. They said, we're sorry, we delivered it to the wrong house. We don't know what happened to them. I remember literally thinking I was not gonna come. Alhamdulillah, I made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the travel agency sent me copies of everything. They didn't have the original, but they had copies. Brothers would tell me, this is impossible. You absolutely need the originals. But I didn't have them. So the next day I went to the embassy in New York City. I took the bus out there and I gave them the copies. And I put my trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The guy looked at me, he looked at the papers, he said, come back in a couple hours for the visa. I was ecstatic. I was sure 100% I was not going to be able to go, because these were copies and they must have the original. Allahu A'lam how this happened. Allah Azza wa Jalla decreed it for me. He said kun, and it was. Allah Azza wa Jalla says be, and the thing is, and that's all it is. These individuals, mashallah, they looked at my paperwork. They didn't see any problem with it. They told me to come back, and within a couple hours that day, I had the visa to come to the blessed city of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we landed here September 8th, 2019. And alhamdulillah, I praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this amazing journey of accepting Islam, learning the Arabic language on my own, going overseas to Sudan and to Kuwait and to Egypt, and then to Saudi Arabia for Umrah, to be able to do the interview in Arabic with no translator, to be able to have the opportunity to study here in this prestigious university, the University of Madinah, that university the likes of Sheikh Mukbil used to study, the likes that Sheikh Al-Albani used to be a teacher, that Sheikh bin Baz used to be the principal of. There's so much barakah here. We have the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ only 10 minutes away, where we have the scholars teaching day and night, and we can benefit and we can get the reward of praying in that masjid. We have the benefit of going to Umrah as many times as we want. Every single weekend we can go, and we get the benefit of Umrah, praying in the Kaaba. This is an amazing opportunity. And I say, after accepting Islam, this is the second greatest blessing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ever given me, the opportunity to study in this blessed university located here in the blessed city of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He makes me from the shakireen, from the mukhlasin, from the muhsinin, and that He keeps me away from wasting my time, that He keeps me away from showing off and suma and riya and wasting my time with qeel and wiqal and with this and with that, and that He makes me and He blesses the students here with ikhlas and thabat and sabr, because no doubt seeking knowledge is all about patience. Seeking knowledge is about working hard, and it is about patience. Whoever does not give knowledge everything they have, they will not get anything. If you don't give knowledge everything, لا يؤتك حتى بعضه, you won't even get a portion of it. As one of the Salafi said, he says, علم لا يؤتك بعضه حتى تؤته كلك. Knowledge doesn't give you any of it until you give all of yourself to it. And even at that point, you only get a little bit of it. So it requires hard work. It requires ikhlas. It requires you to be serious. And it requires a long time. As Imam Shafi says in that beautiful line of poetry, Ya akhi, lan tanal ilm illa bi sittatin. Oh my brother, you will never acquire knowledge except with 6 things. And then he mentioned those 6 things, long time. The seeking of knowledge is not done in a year. It's not done in 4 years or 8-year degree or a bachelor's or a master's or PhD. Seeking knowledge is a lifestyle. That you do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you have ikhlas, that you have a good niyyah, and that you work hard. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He blesses us in that. Wallahu a'lam. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.